Big legal win for music mogul Diddy Jane Doe. A New York judge has dismissed one of the many sexual assault lawsuits against Combs after the alleged victim refused to publicly reveal her identity. So what exactly does this mean for his looming trial? I'll break it down and walk you through the details. For Law and Crime News, I'm Kennedi Walker. Things may be looking up for Sean Combs, known as Diddy, but his legal troubles are far from over. The 55-year-old was arrested last September in Manhattan and charged with racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation for the purpose of prostitution. Prosecutors allege in an unsealed indictment that Combs led a criminal enterprise that engaged in unlawful acts of violence, including sexual violence, prostitution, narcotics distribution, bribery, kidnapping, and obstruction of justice. His arrest opened the floodgates.
Welcome back to the channel. Like, comment, share. 𝐬𝐿 TV. Let's keep it going.
Of women and men came forward with allegations, filing civil lawsuits against him. One of those suits has just been thrown out. It was filed in October of 2024. The lawsuit centered on a woman identified only as Jane Doe, who claimed Combs attempted to sexually assault her at a 1995 party in New York City. She further alleged that when she resisted, Combs became violent. According to the lawsuit, Doe attended a promo party for the notorious B.I.G.'s music video, One More Chance, in June of 1995. She alleged that Combs took an interest in her while she was dancing with her friends, asked to speak with her privately, and led her into a bathroom. That's when, according to her claim, things took a dark turn. Doe alleged that Combs began kissing her, but when she asked him to slow down, believing that they were just there to talk, he allegedly became aggressive. When she tried to pull away, the lawsuit claims Combs violently struck her, slamming her head against the wall and causing her to fall. What she says came next is disturbing. Doe claimed that Combs hit her again before lifting her dress and raping her, all while she laid helpless on the floor. Afterwards, she alleged he threatened her and said, quote, "You better not tell anyone about this or you will disappear." Her attorney, Tony Busby, filed a motion requesting that she be allowed to proceed anonymously, but the court denied it. The judge gave Doe a deadline of March 20th to reveal her name or have the case dismissed. She refused, and the lawsuit has since been thrown out. In a statement to Variety, Busby explained that his
Tell me what y'all think gonna happen. I'm gonna give commentary at the end. I'm gonna let it rock. I probably won't do the whole video though.
Client did not feel comfortable revealing her identity and ultimately decided to drop the allegations, saying, quote, "There is a lot of fear amongst these plaintiffs. I thus can't blame her. These are tough cases and they are many times re-traumatizing for those who pursue them. Each case stands on its own merit. This woman chose not to proceed and subject herself to the media circus and the perceived danger she felt, and we have to respect that." Meanwhile, Combs' legal team welcomed the victory, saying, quote, "This is now the second case brought by these attorneys against Mr. Combs that has been dismissed in its entirety. It will not be the last. For months, we have seen case after case filed by individuals hiding behind anonymity, pushed forward by attorneys more focused on media headlines than legal merit. The other claims, like the one dismissed today, also will not hold up in a court of law." The dismissal of this case marks another victory for Combs. Just last month, a federal judge dismissed 5 charges in a $30 million sexual assault lawsuit filed by his former music producer, Rodney Jones, better known as Lil Rod. Jones was among the first to file a lawsuit against Combs after his legal troubles erupted in 2023. He initially sued in February 2024, later amending his complaint in April, accusing Combs of leading a criminal enterprise that included his son Justin, his chief of staff Christina Coram, and others. Jones alleged that during his time working on Combs' Love album between September 2022 and November 2023, he was sexually harassed, drugged, and threatened by Combs himself. He also accused Combs of walking around him naked, unwanted touching of his private areas, attempting to groom and entice him into homosexual acts, sexual assault by others in Combs' orbit, including actor Cuba Gooding Jr., and more. The judge dismissed several claims, including negligent and intentional infliction of emotional distress, breach of contract, and a Trafficking Victims Protection Act claim against Combs Global. The RICO charge against Combs and Coram was also thrown out. However, the court refused to dismiss the Trafficking Victims Protection Act claims against Combs and Quorum, as well as sexual assault and liability claims. That means Combs and Quorum are still on the hook. Quorum, described as Combs' right-hand person, has been directly named in multiple lawsuits. Combs himself wrote in a 2021 Facebook post that he didn't know how he'd function without her. Last month, she spoke out for the first time, strongly denying any involvement in criminal activity, saying, quote, "For months, horrific accusations have been made about me in various lawsuits regarding my former boss. These false allegations of my involvement are causing irreparable and incalculable damage to my reputation and the emotional well-being of myself and my family. I have never condoned or aided and abetted the sexual assault of anyone, nor have I ever drugged anyone. The idea that I could be accused of playing a role in or even being a bystander to the rape of anyone is beyond upsetting, disturbing, and unthinkable. That is not who I am, and my heart goes out to all the victims of sexual assault. I am confident that the allegations against me will be proven to be untrue." But for Combs, the fight is far from over. He remains in custody at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, where he awaits the next chapter in what is shaping to be one of the most explosive legal battles in music history. He has pleaded not guilty. And joining me to talk more about this is legal expert Nima Rahmani. Thank you so much for coming on. Let's just dive right in. The judge denied the plaintiff's request to remain anonymous. How common is that, and what factors influence such a decision?
Kennedi, thanks for having me. And it's not common. So state law in states like New York and California, where I am, do allow victims of sex abuse to proceed anonymously. But there is no parallel federal law. It's really up to the discretion of the judge, and it comes down to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 10. And they have to balance a number of factors, including the potential harm to the victim, the sensitive nature of the allegations, any prejudice to the defendant. And I think that's the big issue here. Whether the victim has outed himself or herself. And after balancing those factors, the judge in this case came down on the side of the defense. And I think one of the reasons the judge did so is the length of time that has passed. It's very hard to defend allegations that are 30 years old, not really knowing who the complaining witness is or the victim.
And let's just talk more about this. What are the legal arguments for and against allowing alleged victims to remain anonymous in civil cases?
The argument for is that victims of sex abuse should have the right to remain anonymous. They've already been victimized. And
I don't agree with that 100%. I do think you have a right to address your accuser. You can't, and this is, obviously a very sensitive topic, but I'm not saying that it should go public. There should be a way that you can keep that part from the public. But if someone is accusing you, and that's anybody, so anybody can say right now, hey, back in such and such and such and such, such and such did something to me, and you're trying to remember, like, who the hell is this person? And they won't tell you who the person is, and they're suing for X amounts of money. That makes it very hard for you to defend yourself. So, I understand the anonymity part for the person, the abuse victim, but then also too, you got a lot of people that's been lying. So I don't necessarily agree with that 100%. I think that's kind of unfair to the person that has to defend themselves in a sense. You know what I'm saying? So not being dismissive to the fact, I'm just saying, like, just put yourself in that situation or any situation. Someone accused you of something and they say you did something to them, allegedly, and you're trying to remember this situation, even if it did happen or didn't happen. Maybe it did or didn't happen, but you can't put a face with a name. I forget people's faces and names all the time, bro. So I don't think that's fair in a defense sense to put that on somebody and not allow them to address their accuser in any sense.
out them in a very public way really traumatizes them again. So that's why states do have laws like this on the books. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
I don't like how they be choosing certain pictures to put up to make people look menacing and shit either. I ain't really feeling that. I ain't feeling that, especially how they do black men.
Now, the argument against is that the defendant has a right to due process, has a right to know who his accuser is, has a right to defend his case. And when you're a civil defendant and you've been accused of rape or sexual abuse or any type of sexual assault, it's very hard if you can't even know who your victim is. So those are the arguments on both sides. And this was apparently a close call because the judge came down on the side of the defense.
Is the dismissal a turning point in Sean Combs' defense, or just a minor victory in a much bigger fight?
It really is a minor victory, Kennedy, because this is just one of many victims who have filed civil lawsuits. Now, some victims may not want to move forward knowing that their name will be made public. And that's really what happened here. Part of this is really a defense strategy saying, hey, if you're going to sue my client, Sean Combs, we're going to out you. This may have a chilling effect and prevent others from coming forward. They may say to themselves, I don't want my sex abuse to be public, to be talked about on Law&Crime or other media outlets. So that may give some victims pause and they may hesitate to move forward if they may have to be named by name.
Hypothetically, can the plaintiff refile her lawsuit if she later decides to reveal her identity, or is this case just permanently closed?
Hypothetically, yes, but practically speaking, no. The statute of limitations has run on a lot of these claims. There was a window that was open in New York State, then New York City. That window has now closed. So even if the dismissal was without prejudice, unless the new complaint can relate back to the old complaint, there may be a statute of limitations here. And practically speaking, when the victim made the decision not to move forward, that's probably a permanent decision. I can't see that changing.
What would you say are the biggest challenges prosecutors face when trying to prove a case with multiple accusers and decade-old allegations?
It's hard because whenever you have allegations that are old, it gives rise to the defense that they were fabricated. What you want, if you're a prosecutor, is a contemporaneous report, ideally to law enforcement or to a doctor that someone was sexually assaulted. But even if it's to a friend or a family member, something at or near the time of the assault. So the victim, when they testify, they can say, listen, I didn't want to tell my story publicly, but I at least told my friends and family members what happened. Because what will happen otherwise is the defense will say, well, this is just about money, right? This isn't about justice. These are people that are piling on, trying to shake down or extort one of the wealthiest entertainers in the world.
All right, so I'm gonna leave it right there. If you want the full video, you have to go to the Law&Crime Network to obviously see the full video. Law&Crime Network. We got to make sure we give them credit for the video. Extremely good journalism over there. Obviously, they got their stuff together. But I just got a few things I want to touch on. Got a couple notes about this situation. Let me know what y'all think. Number one, this is the second case against him that has been dismissed. This is case number 2 that has been dismissed. And both times these people were anonymous. With the same attorney representing them, Busby. I don't really like that cat. I really think, he just flaunts his feathers a lot. But that's neither here nor there. The bigger question is, right, something I've been thinking of. Why are they going after Diddy? There's a reason these big entities that we obviously can't see are going after him, because 1, 2, 3. No, this is the third thing. The first one was the first girl. The second one was the one that tried to mix Jay-Z and Diddy together, and this is the third one. So, but this is the second one for him independently. You should be able to address your accuser. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't know if there's a way to, I mean, I feel like this. I feel like if you're open enough to go to an attorney or a company that can represent you in a case and tell them that you've been sexually assaulted, you might as well, you're already public in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've had that confidence enough to do that. You know this is what's going to happen with this case. So, and if you know you're not lying, I don't understand why it would be that hard. You, obviously, if you win a suit against him, you'll never have to work again. So who cares what the public perception is going to be? You're not going to be around anyway. You're going to be on vacation 90% of the time. That's, and I could be naive about that. I could be very naive about that, but that's just how I look at it. I do think you should have a right to address your accuser, but just take a second to put yourself in anybody's shoes when you're defending yourself. And that's like someone coming to rob you, masked up and everything. They rob you, beat the crap out of you, and then you have to identify this person based off of their facial features. It's like, I don't even know what this person looks like. Well, they can get the time and place right. They got your house right, the time and place right, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you take the mask off, it's like, oh, I think those is his eyes, because it looked like that's the only thing I could see. So I do think, there should be somewhat accountability in that aspect to be able to address your accuser. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I look at it. If you're not lying, why hide it? In anything, you know what I'm saying? You got to be courageous to stand up for yourself. And not only are you standing up for yourself, you're standing up for other people. But I think it's more to it, why everybody's going after Diddy, and why these little small cases are popping up. So let me know what y'all think. Do you think people should be able to remain completely anonymous? And why is that? Do you think it's fair for the defendant? I don't think it's fair. I think everybody should at least have a fair shot, especially if it's involving the truth. You know what I'm saying? So let me know what y'all think, man. Like, comment, share. I'm going to see y'all in the next one.